The morning sky over Earth changed in a way that no one had ever expected. People all around the world noticed a strange light appearing far above, shimmering like a giant jewel in the atmosphere. Scientists at observatories immediately focused, their telescopes on the object. The world watched in awe as massive ships, unlike anything ever built by humans, slowly descended into Earth's orbit. They were smooth and silver, reflecting sunlight in bright flashes, and their shapes seemed almost alive, flowing with curves that defied human engineering. News channels were filled with speculation. The leaders of every country gathered emergency meetings. Military forces were placed on alert, while scientists worked feverishly to understand what these visitors wanted. Some feared war, some hoped for peace. Humanity had faced many challenges before, but this was unlike anything in history. The visitors were not just from another country or continent. They were from another world. After hours of silence, a sudden transmission appeared across all networks in every language. No translation was needed, for the words were spoken in a voice that carried clarity and authority. "People of Earth," said the voice, deep and musical at the same time. "I am Aera, Queen of the Zalari. I come with a proposal. Marry me if you seek peace." The message stunned everyone. In capitals, parliaments debated, and people gathered in the streets. "Marry the Queen of Aliens? Is this a threat?" whispered one woman in New York. In Tokyo, young students laughed nervously, unsure if this was a joke. In Africa, leaders argued whether this was a test or a trap. The phrase, "marry me," seemed impossible, confusing, even frightening, but the words, "seek peace," suggested that the Queen wanted friendship rather than conquest. At the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, a global summit was called immediately. Leaders, diplomats, and scientists crowded into the main hall. At the head of the table stood Commander Rion, the head of the Earth Defense Coalition. He had seen humanity face danger many times, from natural disasters to conflicts between nations, but he had never faced the unknown that hovered above Earth. His sharp eyes scanned the room as he tried to find a plan. "Are we even safe?" asked a young scientist named Lena, who specialized in communication technologies. "How can we trust them? We do not know what they want or what their real power is." Rion shook his head slowly. "We don't know, Lena, but we have to respond carefully. If we make the wrong choice, it could cost millions of lives. We must understand them before acting." Meanwhile, public reaction spread across the world like wildfire. News channels debated endlessly about the meaning of the Queen's message. Some believed it was a literal demand, as if Earth must accept the alien ruler as a bridegroom in exchange for peace. Others argued it was symbolic, a form of alliance expressed in a way humans might misunderstand. Social media exploded with memes, videos, and discussions. Children drew pictures of the alien queen, some imagining her as kind, others as terrifying. Despite fear and uncertainty, curiosity grew. The people of Earth wanted to know more about these visitors. Questions filled every corner of society. How did the Zalari arrive so quickly? How did their ships float without visible engines? What did they mean by marriage and peace? Was this an opportunity or a trap? At the summit, Rion spoke first. "We will respond to the Queen's request," he said firmly, "but with caution. We need to meet her and understand her intentions. Peace is important, but trust must be earned. We cannot act recklessly." Diplomats debated the risks. Many argued that humans should refuse outright and prepare for defense. Others urged compromise, suggesting that the Zalari might be a chance to end conflicts on Earth. "If they are truly powerful, they could destroy entire cities without effort," said a delegate from Europe. "But if they are willing to form a bond, we might gain knowledge and protection beyond our imagination." The decision was made. A small delegation, including Ryan, Lena, and several top scientists would travel to meet Queen Era aboard her ship. Every detail of their journey was planned. Security was tight. Scientists studied every image of the alien ships. Soldiers trained for situations no human had ever faced. And still, fear lingered. When the Zalari fleet finally opened a landing corridor above Earth, millions of people watched through screens and windows. A single ship descended, landing in a specially prepared area in the Swiss Alps. The craft was enormous yet elegant, with a surface that seemed to ripple like water. The sky glowed with the reflection of its body, and a soft hum filled the air, vibrating in harmony with the ground. The ramp extended slowly, and a figure appeared. She was taller than any human, her skin glimmering faintly in silver and blue. Her eyes were bright and intelligent, filled with a calm authority that demanded respect without words. Her voice, when she spoke, carried over loudspeakers to every corner of the world. "I am Ira, Queen of the Zalari," she said. "I come to offer peace to your planet. I do not seek conquest. I do not seek war. I ask only for a bond, a union of trust that can protect both our peoples." Ryan stepped forward, trying to control his fear and maintain composure. "Queen Ira, humanity welcomes the possibility of peace, but you must understand our caution. We need to know your intentions and your power before any agreement." Ira nodded. "I understand. You will have time to learn, to observe, to choose. My proposal is not immediate obedience, but an invitation. We Zalari have survived countless conflicts because we learned to cooperate. You, humans, have the potential to do the same. Together, we could ensure that no species suffers the threat of war or destruction." As she spoke, people around the world watched silently. Hope mingled with fear. Some felt inspired by her words, some doubted her sincerity, but all agreed on one thing. The world had changed forever. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. The decisions made in the coming days would shape the future of Earth and perhaps the fate of all humankind. The Queen's arrival marked the beginning of a new era, one in which courage, wisdom, and trust would be tested. Humanity had been challenged to rise above fear, to embrace the unknown, and to consider that survival and peace might require choices far beyond what anyone had imagined. After the arrival of Queen Era and her fleet, the world seemed to hold its breath. The Queen's words, "Marry me if you seek peace," echoed in every corner of the globe. People everywhere tried to understand what she meant. Was it a literal request, a symbol of alliance, or a test to measure humanity's courage and wisdom? Governments, scientists, and ordinary citizens all struggled with the answer. At the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, leaders from across the planet gathered. Once more, the air was tense. Delegates argued loudly, each voice carrying a mix of fear, curiosity, and ambition. Commander Ryan, the Earth Defense Coalition head, stood near the table, arms crossed. His expression was firm. He had seen many crises, but nothing compared to this. The fate of humanity now rested on decisions made in this room. Refusing her proposal could mean war, said Ambassador Leone from South America. The Zalari have technology we cannot imagine. If they consider us enemies, we cannot survive. A younger delegate from Europe shook his head. And what if this is a trap? What if the Queen wants to dominate us, to enslave us? We cannot give up our freedom without knowing her intentions clearly. Lena, the young scientist, spoke up. We have no evidence that she wants to harm us. In fact, she said her goal is peace. Perhaps she sees potential in humanity for cooperation. We should at least explore that possibility. Ryan turned to the group. Lena is right. We cannot ignore the opportunity for peace, but we also cannot act recklessly. We need a careful plan. First, we must understand the Zalari. We must learn their ways, their history, their technology, and their values. Only then can we make a decision about their proposal. Outside the walls of Geneva, news spread rapidly. Social media and news channels exploded with discussions. People were divided into groups. Some called themselves the Seekers of Peace, believing the Queen's offer was a gift. They held rallies, carrying banners that read, "Trust the Queen and peace is possible." Others called themselves the Guardians of Freedom. They feared surrendering humanity's independence and held demonstrations warning of alien domination. In small towns and big cities alike, families gathered around screens, discussing what the Queen's words meant. Children asked questions that adults could barely answer. "Why does she want to marry us?" one child asked. Her father tried to explain. "It is a symbol, son. A symbol that we must work together instead of fighting each other." Meanwhile, scientists worked in laboratories to understand the Zalari ships. Lena and her team analyzed the energy patterns, the materials, and the designs. "Their technology is far beyond ours," Lena said, showing her data to Ryan. "But it does not seem designed for destruction. It is precise, controlled, and efficient. It is built for protection and survival, not war." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "That may be true, but we cannot be certain of their intentions. We need direct contact. We need to speak with the Queen ourselves." The debate in the United Nations continued late into the night. Some countries demanded immediate refusal, others proposed a cautious acceptance. Arguments became heated. Some delegates spoke of national pride. Others spoke of survival. Maps of potential conflict zones and Zalari landing sites covered tables. Soldiers and scientists whispered in the corners, trying to prepare for every possible outcome. Amidst this chaos, a decision was made. A delegation would travel to meet the Queen directly. This group would include Ryan, Lena, and a small team of diplomats and scientists. Their mission was simple but dangerous: to understand the Zalari and evaluate whether humanity could trust their proposal. The world watched anxiously as the team prepared for departure. Preparations were extraordinary. Special vehicles and protective suits were designed. Communication devices were enhanced to handle unknown signals. Every detail was considered. The delegation trained in simulations that mimicked possible alien environments. They prepared not only for diplomacy, but also for emergencies, knowing that one wrong move could lead to disaster. The day of departure arrived. Ryan, Lena, and the team boarded a specially designed transport that would carry them to the Queen's ship. News outlets broadcasted every moment. Millions of people stared at their screens, some holding hands in hope, others in fear. If they succeed, humanity may enter a new era, Lena said quietly to Ryan. If they fail, we may never recover from what happens next. As the transport rose toward orbit, the Zalari fleet glimmered like silver stars in the sky. The Queen's ship stood out among the others, large yet elegant, its surface reflecting the earth below. The closer they got, the more Ryan felt a mix of awe and tension. For centuries, humans had looked to the stars with curiosity, but now they were meeting beings who had crossed the cosmos and offered friendship. On board the Queen's ship, the delegation was met with silence. The corridors glowed with soft light, and the walls seemed alive, shifting slightly as they moved. Lena's sensors recorded strange energy patterns, showing how advanced the Zalari technology was. The team could barely hide their amazement. Finally, they reached the central chamber. Queen Era stood waiting, her presence as commanding as it had been during the landing. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she observed the humans carefully, her bright eyes scanning every expression. Ryan stepped forward. "Queen Ira," he said firmly, "we are here to understand your proposal. We hope to find a path to peace that respects both our species." Ira inclined her head gracefully. You are wise to come willingly. Many species would have hesitated or hidden in fear. The choice to approach with courage is the first sign that humanity has the potential for true cooperation. She gestured toward a large view window showing Earth below. Look upon your planet as I do. Beautiful, fragile, full of potential. The Zalari have survived because we learned to value life and collaboration. We do not seek to dominate. We seek to share knowledge and security. The proposal I offered is not about control. It is about trust, symbolized by the bond I offer. To marry is to unite, to promise protection and respect. To do so with two species is to create a future together. Ryan and Lena exchanged glances. The words were strange, yet sincere. For the first time, fear mixed with hope. Could humanity accept such an unusual alliance? Could they rise above suspicion and fear to embrace this bold offer? The delegation realized that their task would not be simple. They needed to report back to Earth, to persuade leaders and citizens that this proposal could be the path to survival. And they needed to begin building trust with Era, the alien queen who had challenged humanity to think beyond its own limitations. As they stood in the chamber, gazing at the glowing ship and the Earth below, Ryan whispered to Lena, "The world may never be the same after this. We have to do our best to make it right." Lena nodded. And maybe, just maybe, this is the chance to show what humanity can truly achieve when it chooses peace over fear. The journey of understanding had begun. Humanity faced its greatest test yet. To decide whether to accept an alliance unlike any before, to step forward into the unknown, and to rise to the challenge of forging peace with a civilization from the stars. The delegation entered the heart of the Zalari Queen's ship. Every step they took felt different from anything on Earth. The floors were smooth and slightly glowing, and the walls seemed to pulse gently, almost like the ship itself was alive. Lena's sensors showed energy flows that she could not fully explain. Even Ryan, trained in countless emergency situations, felt a mixture of awe and unease. The technology here was beyond anything humanity had seen, yet it was clearly designed for life, not destruction. Queen Era waited in a chamber that was larger than any human room, stretching high above them. Its ceiling reflected a sky-like pattern, stars twinkling as if outside in space. A soft, calming hum filled the air, creating a sense of peace. When the delegation entered, she did not rush forward. Instead, she studied each human carefully, her bright eyes observing fear, curiosity, and hope. "Welcome, humans," she said, her voice musical but firm. "You have chosen to come willingly. That choice shows wisdom and courage. Many species would have hesitated, afraid of the unknown." Ryan stepped forward, standing tall. "Queen Era, we are here to learn and to understand your proposal. Humanity wishes for peace, but we must ensure that any agreement is based on trust and understanding." Era nodded gracefully. "Trust is earned, not demanded. Today, you will see the Zalari ways and learn why we value cooperation above all else. You will understand that my proposal is not about domination, but about survival and unity." She gestured, and the walls of the chamber shifted to display images of the Zalari homeworld. Floating cities glimmered above oceans of strange colors. Forests stretched across the landscape, not just growing naturally, but shaped with technology that allowed every living thing to thrive. Rivers flowed with crystal clarity, guided to nourish plants and wildlife equally. The humans watched silently, absorbing the beauty and harmony of a civilization unlike their own. "This is our world," Ira continued. "We have survived countless wars because we learned to protect life rather than destroy it. We do not seek conquest. We seek understanding and partnership. To offer marriage is to offer a bond of trust. It is a promise of protection, guidance, and cooperation between our species, Lena could hardly contain her amazement. "It is beautiful," she whispered to Ryan. "Their civilization is advanced, but it is alive. Every part of their world seems to be connected, balanced, and respectful of life." Ryan nodded quietly, still cautious. "We must remember our mission. We are here to observe, to learn, and to report back. Our task is not to make a decision yet, but to gather knowledge and build understanding." Era led them through the ship, showing them rooms designed for study, for rest, and for learning. Everywhere they went, they noticed subtle signs of care. Energy was used efficiently, without waste. Systems were designed to support life, not to dominate it. The delegation began to understand that the Zalari were not warriors in the sense humans understood. They were guardians of their own survival and the survival of life around them. At one point, they entered a chamber filled with holographic displays of stars, planets, and ships. Era explained, "We have explored much of the galaxy. We have seen civilizations rise and fall, often because they did not learn to cooperate. We wish to offer humanity the chance to join a path that values trust, knowledge, and shared growth." The humans were struck by the simplicity and sincerity of her words. Here was a species powerful enough to conquer Earth without effort, yet the Queen chose dialogue and education instead of force. It was a lesson in restraint and wisdom. The delegation spent hours learning about Zalari technology and culture. They saw systems designed to heal and protect, machines that could grow food in deserts, and energy fields that could protect entire cities without harming anyone. Lena documented everything, knowing that these discoveries could change the future of Earth. As the day passed, Era invited the humans to a central chamber for a ceremonial meeting. The room was circular with a floor that glowed softly underfoot. In the center stood Era herself, her presence commanding but calm. "Today we begin the first step of understanding," she said. "A ceremony is not about tradition alone. It is a way to show respect, commitment, and willingness to connect. You, humans, will witness our practices and learn what it means to form a bond." Ryan stepped forward. "We are ready to learn, Queen Era. We hope to understand your culture and your intentions." Ira raised her hands, and light filled the chamber. Holographic images of Zalari families, communities, and leaders appeared around them. She explained, "In Zalari tradition, a union represents unity, protection, and shared responsibility. It is not about one ruling the other, but about working together to ensure the safety and growth of all. The ceremony you see today is symbolic. It is meant to teach, not bind. You are not yet part of the union. You are observers, learning the meaning behind it." The humans watched carefully as the ceremony unfolded. Aira's advisors, elegant and graceful beings, demonstrated gestures of respect, trust, and cooperation. Each motion had meaning, showing care, understanding, and mutual protection. Lena noticed how the ceremony emphasized collaboration over power, wisdom over fear. As the demonstration concluded, Era turned to the delegation. "You now understand the principles of our proposal. It is not meant to frighten, control, or limit. It is a promise of shared growth, protection, and peace. Your species has the chance to join us in a bond that values life and unity. The choice will be yours, but understanding must come first." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "We understand the principles, Queen Era. It is clear that your intentions are honorable. Our task now is to return to Earth and share this knowledge. Humanity must learn to see this offer not as a threat, but as an opportunity for partnership and survival." The Queen inclined her head. "Do not rush your decisions. Take the time to observe, to learn, and to teach others what you have seen. True trust cannot be forced. It must grow. Your species has potential, and it is my hope that you will rise to meet it." As the delegation prepared to leave, Lena whispered, "This changes everything. The Queen is not asking for submission. She is offering a path forward that we could never have imagined. Ryan looked out through the viewing window at Earth below. The world may not understand yet. Many will fear what they do not know. But if we succeed, humanity will have a chance to rise above fear, to embrace knowledge, and to take its place among the stars in a new way. The first contact ceremony had ended, but its lessons were just beginning. Humanity had taken the first step toward understanding the Zalari and the bold proposal of their queen. The challenge ahead was not simple, but hope had begun to shine alongside caution, showing that even in the vast unknown, the possibility of trust and peace was real. After the first contact ceremony, the human delegation was invited to journey deeper into the Zalari Queen's ship. The purpose was clear: to test humanity's willingness to understand, cooperate, and demonstrate goodwill. The ship's corridors stretched like rivers of light, gently guiding the delegation toward new chambers. Each turn revealed technology that amazed humans, yet caused no fear. Energy fields shimmered without barriers, and machines hummed softly, doing work without violence. Queen Ira greeted them in a chamber that seemed to float in space itself. Outside the vast window, stars shimmered in colors that humans had never seen. Planets drifted silently, and distant comets streaked through darkness. The sight filled the delegation with awe, and even Ryan felt the weight of insignificance mixed with wonder. "Humans," Ira said, her voice calm but commanding. "Before any bond is formed, you must understand the values of the Zalari. You must see what it means to act not for domination but for protection and cooperation. To do this, I offer you trials that will teach trust, courage, and wisdom." Ryan stepped forward. "We accept your challenge, Queen Era. We are ready." "To learn and to show that humanity can act with honor," Era nodded. "Very well, follow me." The first trial took them to a chamber filled with flowing holographic rivers and floating islands of light. The floor was transparent, revealing a deep void below, yet there was no danger. Ryan and Lena realized that the trial was not physical, but mental. Each step required calm, focus, and trust in the environment. As they walked, paths shifted and reshaped around them, responding to their movements. Those who panicked or rushed stumbled, but those who observed and trusted the flow moved gracefully. "This trial shows the importance of patience and trust," Era explained. "To survive and to work together, you must see beyond fear and rely on careful thought. Impulsiveness can lead to failure, while observation and understanding create harmony." Lena turned to Ryan, smiling. "It feels like the ship itself is alive, guiding us. This is incredible." The next trial was even more revealing. They entered a chamber with holographic simulations of disasters, erupting volcanoes, collapsing, cities and storms raging across alien landscapes. Ryan immediately instinctively reached for a control panel to stop the chaos. But Era held up her hand. "Your task is not to stop the events directly," she said. "It is to find solutions that protect life without destruction. Violence is easy. Wisdom and care are the real test." The delegation quickly realized that every simulation required creative thinking. In one scenario, they had to save a city from a falling asteroid without harming the people or the environment. In another, they needed to provide shelter for millions during a violent storm using limited resources. Lena documented every solution, impressed by how the Zalari designed their challenges not to punish but to teach. "These trials show that true strength is in preservation, not destruction," Ira said. "A species that values life above dominance can achieve great things." As the day passed, the delegation saw more of the Zalari world. They visited chambers that replicated alien ecosystems, showing how technology and nature could work together. Plants glowed softly, feeding themselves through light and energy fields. Small animals moved freely, guided by invisible forces that protected and nurtured them. Lena was fascinated. "This is not just technology," she said. "It is a philosophy. They have learned to respect life at every level. Ryan nodded. And it makes sense why the Queen wants a bond. They survive because they cooperate, not because they dominate. Humanity has much to learn from this. During the journey, Ira also introduced the delegation to Zalari advisors. These beings were tall, elegant, and moved with a quiet grace. They spoke through a translator system, offering insights into their culture and history. They described how the Zalari had survived wars, environmental disasters, and internal conflicts by learning to act together. Each advisor emphasized that trust was not given lightly. It was earned through actions, respect, and understanding. The most challenging trial came last. The delegation entered a room filled with mirrors and light. In the mirrors, they saw their own fears, doubts, and hesitations reflected. At first, some were distracted, even frightened. But Era encouraged them to face these reflections, to recognize their weaknesses and fears without judgment. "Courage is not the absence of fear," she said softly. "It is the ability to act wisely despite fear. Wisdom grows when you understand yourself as well as others. Only then can trust truly exist." Ryan looked into the mirrors and saw his doubts about humanity's readiness for such a partnership. He thought of Earth, its conflicts, its divisions, and its potential for greatness. He realized that the trials were not just about learning Zalari ways. They were about learning what it truly meant to rise above fear and act with honor. By the end of the day, the delegation had completed the trials. They were exhausted, yet inspired. Lena said quietly to Ryan, "This has been more than a test. It has been a lesson. Humanity could achieve great things if we embrace these values." Ryan nodded. "We have learned much, Lena. Now, the challenge will be to bring this understanding back to Earth. Many will fear what they do not know. Many will doubt. But we must show them that trust, courage, and cooperation are possible, even with an alien species." Era observed them, her eyes gentle, but focused. "You have shown promise. Your species has potential, but the real work begins when you return home. You must convince your people that fear is not the only path. You must teach them that unity, understanding, and courage can create a future where no species suffers alone." As the delegation prepared to leave the chambers, they realized how much humanity had to grow. The Zalari trials were not just about learning alien ways. They were about understanding life itself. They had seen what a civilization could achieve when fear was replaced by trust, when cooperation was valued above dominance, and when courage meant acting wisely despite uncertainty. The journey back to Earth would not be easy. Ryan knew that. Leaders and citizens alike would resist ideas that challenged their assumptions. Lena understood that knowledge alone was not enough. It must inspire action. And Era, the queen of the Zalari, waited patiently, confident that humanity had the potential to rise to the challenge if they chose to do so. The trials of trust had ended, but the lessons would shape humanity's path forever. The delegation returned to Earth carrying hope, knowledge, and the responsibility to show that even in a world divided by fear, cooperation, courage, and wisdom could guide them toward a future of peace. After the trials of trust aboard the Zalari Queen's ship, the human delegation returned to the main chambers to rest and reflect. Ryan and Lena had seen more than technology. They had seen the philosophy and heart of a civilization unlike any other. They realized that the Queen's proposal was not simply about symbols or rituals. It was about partnership, about teaching humanity to act with courage, wisdom, and care. As the humans gathered in a quiet chamber, Era approached them with a calm smile. "You have done well," she said. "You have shown that your species can act with thought and courage. Now you must understand that the bond I offer is built on knowledge and respect. We do not rush decisions. We grow together, step by step. Ryan, feeling the weight of responsibility, nodded. We understand, Queen Ira. Humanity has much to learn, but we hope that our people will see your message clearly. We have seen your world, your trials, and your care for life. It is unlike anything on Earth. Ira's gaze softened. Many of your species will doubt, but doubt is not a weakness. It is a sign of awareness. You must show them what cooperation and trust can achieve. You must lead by example. Over the next days, Ryan and Lena spent time with the Queen and her advisors. They learned about the Zalari history, their challenges, and how they overcame conflicts through understanding rather than violence. They saw how Zalari communities valued each individual, not for strength or power, but for contribution and wisdom. Every action had purpose, every decision considered for its impact on life. Lena was fascinated. It is incredible, she said one evening. Their technology and philosophy are inseparable. They don't build things to dominate, they build things to support life, to enhance learning, to create harmony. We have so much to learn from them. Ryan watched the Queen closely. It is not just the technology. It is her leadership. She inspires loyalty without fear. She commands respect through wisdom, not force. If humanity could learn even a fraction of that, we could change our world. As they spent more time with Ira, a quiet bond began to form. She did not demand admiration or obedience, yet her presence naturally encouraged trust. Ryan and Lena began to feel that she was not only a leader, but also a teacher, guiding them to see what humanity could become if it chose courage and unity. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the situation was tense. Reports of the delegation's experiences spread slowly at first, filtered through cautious leaders and scientists. Many people were skeptical, afraid of what they did not understand. Protests continued, with some demanding that Earth reject the Queen's proposal entirely. Others, inspired by the delegation's accounts, called for dialogue and preparation for a peaceful alliance. Ryan knew that winning trust on Earth would be far more difficult than learning Zalari ways. The divisions among humans were deep, and fear of the unknown ran stronger than reason. We can teach them what we learned, he told Lena, but they must be willing to listen. That will be the real test. One day, Ira invited the delegation to observe a demonstration of Zalari collaboration. They were led to a chamber where small communities of Zalari worked together to solve challenges. One group constructed a bridge over a floating chasm without harming the environment. Another created energy fields to guide floating islands safely through simulated storms. The delegation saw how cooperation amplified creativity and efficiency. Every individual's skills were valued, and no one acted out of fear or selfishness. Lena was amazed. Look at how they work together, she said. Every action has purpose and every person contributes. Humans fight for power. They need to learn this kind of unity. Ryan nodded. Yes, and that is why the Queen's proposal is so important. It is not just about peace with her people. It is about showing humanity what we could become if we act wisely and together. During the evenings, Ira spoke with the humans about the future. Your species is young in the galaxy, she said. You have much potential. Fear has limited you, but courage and wisdom can expand your reach. The bond I offer is a path. It is not a demand. You may choose to grow together or to remain divided. The choice is yours, but know this. Cooperation is survival and unity is strength. Ryan felt the weight of her words. We must show our people that your offer is not surrender. It is opportunity. We must teach them that peace does not mean weakness, and that understanding does not mean submission. Lena added, and we must lead by example. If we demonstrate courage, cooperation, and respect, perhaps they will follow. Perhaps humanity can rise to meet this challenge. As days passed, the delegation shared stories, observations, and lessons from the Zalari world. They realized that trust and partnership were more than political concepts. They were ways of living, thinking, and acting. The bond offered by Era was a symbol of potential, the chance for humans to rise above fear, division, and violence, and to embrace knowledge, collaboration, and courage. The relationship between the delegation and Ira grew stronger. She listened to their concerns, answered their questions, and guided them through complex ideas with patience and clarity. Slowly, humans began to see her not as a strange alien, but as a leader and a teacher. Respect grew into admiration, and admiration into trust. Yet even as the delegation grew closer to the Queen, tensions on Earth continued. Some nations threatened to act independently, skeptical of the delegation's reports. Protests turned into demands for immediate defense measures. Leaders worried about losing control of events, and citizens feared the unknown. The delegation realized that their task would require diplomacy, patience, and courage beyond what they had anticipated. Ryan spoke to Lena one evening as they looked at the stars through the ship's window. The Zalari have shown us a future we could have. But getting humanity to understand that is the real challenge. Fear is stronger than curiosity. For many, we must find a way to guide them without forcing them. Lena nodded. And we must show them the lessons we learned. That courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act wisely despite it. That cooperation is more powerful than domination. That respect and trust can create a future worth living for. The bond with the Queen had grown. Humanity had begun to understand what it could become. But the delegation knew that hope alone would not be enough. They had to return to Earth and face the divisions, doubts, and fears of their own people. Their journey was far from over. Yet in the quiet moments aboard the Zalari ship, as the stars drifted silently outside, Ryan, Lena, and the others realized one undeniable truth. Humanity had a chance to rise, to learn, and to grow stronger than ever before. And that chance, offered by Queen Ira, was the most precious opportunity they had ever been given. The future awaited, uncertain yet full of possibility. The delegation prepared to return to Earth, carrying knowledge, hope, and the growing bond between two very different worlds. The delegation returned to Earth with a mix of hope and concern. They had seen the wisdom, care, and advanced technology of the Zalari civilization. They had formed a bond of trust with Queen Ira and understood her proposal. But Earth was not ready to accept what they had learned so easily. Fear and suspicion dominated conversations in governments, media, and among ordinary people. At the United Nations headquarters, emergency meetings were held. Leaders debated endlessly. Some believed the delegation's experience was genuine and urged dialogue. Others suspected manipulation and warned that the Queen's intentions might hide danger. Protests erupted in many cities, some calling for acceptance and peace, others for preparation to fight if necessary. Ryan addressed the assembly, standing tall before representatives from every nation. "We have seen the Zalari civilization," he said firmly. "They do not seek war. They value life, knowledge, and cooperation. Their proposal is not about domination. It is about partnership and survival. We must consider the opportunity before us carefully and wisely." A few delegates nodded, but many shook their heads. "How can we trust an alien species?" demanded one leader. "They have technology beyond our understanding. They could destroy our cities in moments." Lena stepped forward. "The Queen has shown us that trust is not blind. We were tested and taught. She does not demand submission. She asks for understanding and cooperation. Humanity has the choice to rise above fear and division. That is our real challenge." Despite their words, resistance remained strong. Fear of the unknown ran deep, and nations struggled to agree. Some began building defensive measures, secretly preparing weapons and systems to counter the Zalari if necessary. Others quietly supported the idea of dialogue and exploration, hoping that trust and reason could overcome suspicion. Meanwhile, the Zalari fleet remained in orbit, observing Earth but not interfering. Queen Era sent messages of patience and understanding. "We offer guidance, not control," she said. "We seek to protect and share knowledge. The choice of cooperation is yours, and we will wait for your decision." The delegation realized that time was limited. They could not force understanding. They could only teach, lead by example, and show humanity the benefits of cooperation. Ryan organized open forums, bringing together scientists, diplomats, and community leaders to share what they had learned aboard the Zalari ship. Lena presented data on Zalari technology, energy systems, and environmental solutions that could benefit Earth immediately. Some humans began to change their perspective. Communities that embraced dialogue and learning found ways to cooperate on new projects inspired by Zalari methods. Cities worked to improve energy efficiency, agriculture, and disaster management, guided by principles learned from the Zalari. Slowly, hope began to spread. But not all challenges came from fear alone. A sudden anomaly in Earth's orbit drew global attention. A previously unknown asteroid cluster approached, threatening major population centers. The announcement sparked panic in cities and capitals. Leaders turned to the delegation for guidance, knowing that the Zalari might hold the key to survival. Ryan contacted Queen Era immediately. "Your help is needed," he said. "An asteroid cluster threatens millions of lives. Humanity does not have the capability to handle it alone." Era responded calmly. "We have prepared for such events. Our technology can protect your world, but we require your cooperation. Humanity must demonstrate trust and decisive action. Under Era's guidance, humans and Zalari worked together. Cities evacuated in a coordinated effort. Energy shields were deployed to redirect asteroids safely away from populated areas." Lena monitored the systems, amazed at how quickly Earth's coordination improved under Zalari guidance. People from different nations worked side by side, setting aside conflicts to focus on survival. The success of the operation inspired many. Fear began to shift toward understanding. Communities that had resisted dialogue saw the power of cooperation firsthand. Leaders who had opposed the Queen's proposal recognized that partnership could save lives in ways human efforts alone could not. Ryan reflected on the change. "This is what we needed," he said to Lena. "Once humanity sees the benefits of trust and unity, they can begin to overcome fear and division." Lena nodded. "The challenge now is to maintain this momentum. We must show that cooperation is not just necessary in emergencies but valuable every day." With the asteroid threat managed, Era offered further guidance. She helped establish shared research centers, combining human and Zalari knowledge to improve energy, medicine, and environmental care. Humans began to see that the Queen's proposal was not a demand, but a path toward growth and protection. Slowly, humanity started to embrace a new vision. Schools incorporated Zalari principles, teaching young people about cooperation, understanding, and courage. Communities learned to solve conflicts without violence, inspired by the example set by the Queen and her advisors. Leaders began planning policies that valued preservation, trust, and collaboration. Even so, some resistance remained. Certain factions continued to fear the unknown and distrust outsiders. The delegation knew that change would take time. Patience and persistence were essential. Ryan and Lena worked tirelessly, traveling between cities, giving speeches, meeting leaders, and sharing lessons from the Zalari civilization. Through all of this, their bond with Queen Aira deepened. She continued to guide them, offering wisdom and perspective. Her patience never wavered, and her belief in humanity's potential inspired them. The delegation realized that this alliance was not just about survival, but about teaching Earth to rise to its highest potential. As weeks passed, the world began to change. Fear slowly gave way to curiosity, suspicion to understanding. Humanity learned that cooperation could achieve results far beyond what individuals or nations could accomplish alone. The delegation's work with the Queen became a symbol of hope, showing that courage, trust, and wisdom could transform the future. Rian and Lena stood on a balcony overlooking a city where humans and Zalari worked side by side to build new energy systems. "We have come far," Ryan said. "But the real challenge is to ensure that humanity continues to grow in this way, even when fear returns." Lena smiled. "The path is clear. Trust, cooperation, and courage will guide us, and with the Queen as our ally, we can achieve what once seemed impossible." Above them, the Zalari fleet shone in orbit, a constant reminder that humanity was not alone. The future was uncertain, but hope had taken root. The lessons of trust, unity, and partnership were spreading, and the world began to see that the Queen's bold proposal was not just a chance for peace, but a chance for humanity to rise to greatness. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, Earth had begun to understand that trust, courage, and cooperation could shape a brighter future. And in the quiet moments, as humans and Zalari worked together, the possibility of a new era of peace felt real, within reach, and full of promise. The world had changed. Humanity had faced fear, uncertainty, and skepticism. But with the guidance of Queen Ira and the courage of the delegation, a new understanding had begun to emerge. People were learning that trust and cooperation could achieve what fear and suspicion never could. Cities once divided by politics and conflict now worked together, inspired by the principles of the Zalari civilization. Ryan and Lena stood at the forefront of this transformation. They had traveled across nations, sharing lessons from their time aboard the Zalari ship. Schools, communities, and governments had begun to adopt the ideas of unity, understanding, and careful planning. Even skeptics who had doubted the Queen's intentions now witnessed the benefits of collaboration in disaster response, environmental management, and technological advancement. Yet the most important step remained. Humanity had to make a conscious choice to accept the bond offered by Queen Ira. It was not a decision to be taken lightly. Leaders gathered once again at the United Nations, this time with representatives from every nation present. Ryan addressed the assembly, his voice steady and confident. "Today, we face a choice," he said. "A choice to rise above fear, to embrace knowledge, and to take our place in a future where humanity can grow stronger, wiser, and safer. Queen Aira offers us partnership, guidance, and friendship. She does not demand submission. She asks only for trust and understanding." Lena stepped forward to add her perspective. "We have seen what the Zalari civilization has achieved. They survive and thrive because they value life, cooperation, and wisdom. Their proposal is an opportunity for humanity to learn and to grow. To refuse it would be to turn away from knowledge and hope." A murmur ran through the assembly. Some leaders still hesitated, but the overwhelming evidence of cooperation and the successful defense against the asteroid threat had convinced many. Slowly, a consensus began to form. Humanity would not act out of fear, but would choose to rise to the challenge. A formal vote was held. Representatives from every nation raised their hands in favor of accepting the Queen's bond. It was a historic moment. A new era was beginning, one built not on dominance or power, but on trust, courage, and mutual respect. Rion and Lena prepared to return to the Zalari ship with the official message. As they ascended, millions of people around the world watched with hope and anticipation. The sky above shimmered with the Zalari fleet, a silent promise of guidance and protection. Queen Ira awaited them in the central chamber, her presence, calm and regal. "You have done well," she said. "Your species has chosen wisely. The decision to trust, to cooperate, and to rise above fear shows that humanity has the potential to achieve greatness." Ryan stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth, we accept your proposal, Queen Era. We are ready to form a bond built on trust, understanding, and shared growth." The Queen's eyes sparkled. "Then let the union begin. It is a symbol, yes, but also a promise. A promise that our civilizations will support one another, protect one another, and grow together. Let this moment mark the beginning of a future where no species is alone." Era guided the delegation through a symbolic ceremony. Humans and Zalari stood side by side, sharing gestures of respect, unity, and cooperation. The chamber glowed softly as light connected them, a visible sign of the bond they had formed. For the delegation, it was a moment of profound understanding. They felt the weight of responsibility, but also the power of hope. Back on Earth, the announcement sparked celebrations and reflection. People gathered in cities, towns, and villages, realizing that they were part of something larger than themselves. The bond with the Zalari was not just about survival, it was about learning, growing, and rising to a new level of humanity. Communities began to work together in ways they had never done before. Nations shared resources, knowledge, and technology. Environmental projects flourished, healthcare improved, and education spread with renewed energy. Young people learned about courage, cooperation, and the importance of understanding perspectives beyond their own. Humanity was changing, guided by the lessons of the Zalari and the wisdom of Queen Ira. Ryan and Lena observed the changes with quiet pride. "We have done more than survive," Ryan said. "We have taken the first step toward becoming a species capable of real greatness." Lena nodded. "And it is only the beginning. The real work is to maintain these values, to teach future generations, and to continue building trust across our world and with the Zalari." Queen Ira spoke with them one last time before their return to Earth. "You have shown courage, wisdom, and perseverance. Humanity has chosen to rise. Remember, trust and cooperation are not once-in-a-lifetime choices. They are daily commitments. Nurture them, and your species will achieve wonders you cannot yet imagine." As the delegation returned to Earth, the sky filled with light from the Zalari fleet. People watched in awe as ships hovered peacefully above, a constant reminder of the partnership and the promise of a shared future. Rion and Lena felt the significance of the moment. Humanity had chosen a path that required courage, patience, and understanding. They had chosen hope over fear. In the days that followed, programs were established to continue collaboration with the Zalari. Scientists, engineers, and leaders worked together to advance technology, improve cities, and protect the environment. Communities shared ideas and solutions, guided by the lessons of trust, cooperation, and courage learned from the Queen's trials. The world had entered a new era. Borders no longer divided as sharply as before. Nations and peoples began to see themselves as part of a larger whole, capable of achieving remarkable things when united. The bond with the Zalari was more than a symbol. It was a living example of what could happen when fear was replaced by understanding and courage. Ryan stood on a balcony overlooking a city filled with activity and hope. Lena joined him, and together they watched the sun rise, casting golden light across the earth. "We have done what we came to do," Ryan said quietly. "Humanity has chosen trust and cooperation. The future is ours to shape." Lena smiled. "And with guidance, courage, and patience, we can rise to meet anything." The Queen's proposal was bold, but it inspired humanity to see what we can become. Above them, the Zalari fleet shimmered, a constant reminder of partnership, hope, and the possibility of a brighter future. Humanity had taken the first step into a new era, one where courage, trust, and wisdom would guide their path among the stars. The journey was only beginning, but for the first time, the world felt united. Fear had been replaced with hope, doubt with understanding, and division with cooperation. Humanity had accepted the challenge, embraced the bond, and stepped forward into a future filled with promise. The stars above, once distant and mysterious, now felt closer than ever. And humanity, guided by the lessons of Queen Ira, was ready to rise to its greatest potential.